Hey everyone, Linus here. The GPU market has been wild lately. It's tough to find a good graphics card at a decent price. A lot of you have been asking about buying used GPUs. And it's true, the used market can be tempting. You might find some deals, but there are also risks. In this video, I'm going to guide you. We'll navigate the used GPU market together. I'll help you avoid common pitfalls. You'll learn how to spot red flags. And hopefully, you'll score yourself a great deal. We'll cover everything you need to know. We'll talk about the impact of mining on GPUs. You'll learn how to spot a rebuilt graphics card. We'll discuss the importance of cooling. And I'll give you some tips on checking seller transparency. By the end of this video, you'll be a savvy used GPU shopper. You'll be able to buy with confidence. No more fear of getting ripped off. Let's dive in. Okay, so let's talk about the current GPU market. New graphics cards? They've been crazy expensive lately. Supply chain issues, increased demand, you name it. It's been tough for gamers to upgrade. And even tougher for people building new PCs. This price surge has led to a boom in the used GPU market. People are holding onto their old cards longer, and more people are selling their used GPUs. This means there are a lot of cards out there. But it also means you need to be careful. Not all used GPUs are created equal. Now, with so many used GPUs flooding the market, it can be tempting to jump on any deal you find, but hold your horses. The sheer volume of used cards means there's a higher chance of running into problems. Sellers know there's demand, and some of them might try to take advantage of that. Remember, just because a card is listed for sale doesn't mean it's a good deal, or even that it's in working order. This is where your knowledge comes in. We're going to teach you how to spot those red flags. We'll help you avoid getting stuck with a lemon. So, how do you navigate this crowded market? First, be patient. Don't rush into a purchase. Take your time, do your research, and compare prices from different sellers. Second, be informed. That's what this video is for. We're going to give you the tools to make smart decisions. Remember, knowledge is power. The more you know about the used GPU market, the better equipped you'll be to find a great deal, and the less likely you are to get scammed. So buckle up and get ready to learn. Alright, let's talk about mining, specifically cryptocurrency mining. A few years back it was all the rage. People were buying up GPUs like crazy to mine digital gold. And I mean, this drove up the price of GPUs to insane levels. Gamers were not happy, but what goes up must come down. The crypto bubble eventually burst. And when it did, it left behind a wave of used mining GPUs. Now these cards aren't necessarily bad, but they do come with some risks. You see, mining puts a lot of stress on a GPU. It's like running a marathon every day. Think of it this way, when a GPU is mining, it's running at maximum capacity 24/7. That generates a lot of heat, and heat is the enemy of electronics. Over time, this constant stress can lead to wear and tear on the GPU's components. Fans can wear out, thermal paste can dry up. And in some cases, the GPU chip itself can degrade. Now, I'm not saying that all mining GPUs are ticking time bombs. Some miners take good care of their hardware. They use proper cooling and monitor temperatures. But others, not so much. They might run their cards hot and push them to the limit. And that's where the risk comes in. So, how can you tell if a GPU was used for mining? Well, there are a few things to look out for. First, check the seller's history. Are they selling multiple cards of the same model? That could be a red flag. Second, ask about the card's usage. Was it used for gaming or mining? Be wary of sellers who are evasive or vague. Third, inspect the card itself. Does it look dusty or worn? Are the fans noisy or rattling? These could be signs of heavy use. Of course, you can't always tell for sure just by looking, but these are some things to keep in mind. The bottom line is this. Buying a used mining GPU can be a gamble. You might get lucky and find a card that's still in good shape, or you might end up with a lemon that dies on you after a few months. If you're on a tight budget, a used mining GPU might be tempting. Just be aware of the risks. In the next section, we'll talk about another potential pitfall in the used GPU market: rebuilt graphics cards. Stay tuned. Alright, let's talk about rebuilt graphics cards. These are cards that have been taken apart, repaired, and put back together. Now, before you run for the hills, hear me out. Rebuilt GPUs aren't always a bad thing. Sometimes it's a simple fix. Maybe a fan died or a capacitor blew, no big deal. But here's the catch. Rebuilt GPUs can be a mixed bag. You don't always know what you're getting. It's like buying a used car. Was it in a minor fender bender, or did it go for a swim in a lake? The history can be murky, and that's where the risk comes in. So how can you tell if a GPU has been rebuilt? Well, there are a few telltale signs. First, check the screws. If they look scratched or stripped, that's a red flag. It means someone's been tinkering. Second, look for any signs of soldering. Has the thermal paste been reapplied? Are there any fingerprints or smudges? These could be clues. Third, and this is important, ask the seller directly. Have they rebuilt the card themselves? If so, what was repaired? A transparent seller will have no problem answering these questions. If they're evasive or dismissive, that's a major red flag. Now let's be real. Rebuilt GPUs can be tempting. They're often cheaper than their non-rebuilt counterparts. And if you're on a budget, that can be a big draw. But you need to weigh the risks and rewards. Are you comfortable with the uncertainty? Are you willing to potentially buy a card that might fail sooner than a new one? If you decide to go down the rebuilt route, proceed with caution. Do your research, ask lots of questions, and if possible, try to buy from a reputable seller, someone with a track record of selling reliable hardware. Look, I'm not saying all rebuilt GPUs are bad. Sometimes you can find a real gem. Maybe someone just upgraded their cooler or replaced a faulty fan, and they're selling it for a steal. That's fantastic. Just be sure to do your due diligence. Ask for detailed photos, inquire about the card's history, and if possible, see if the seller offers any kind of warranty or return policy. A little bit of caution can go a long way, and it could save you a lot of headache down the road. Now, let's move on to another crucial aspect of buying a used GPU cooling and performance. Alright, let's talk about cooling. This is super important when it comes to GPUs, especially used ones. GPUs generate a lot of heat, that's just a fact of life. And if that heat isn't dissipated properly, it can lead to all sorts of problems. Performance throttling, system instability, even premature hardware failure. Not good. Now, a good cooling solution helps keep those temperatures in check. It prevents the GPU from overheating and keeps it running smoothly. When you're buying a used GPU, you want to pay close attention to the cooling system. It can tell you a lot about the card's history and its potential longevity. One type of cooler you might come across is a blower-style cooler. These are those single-fan coolers that exhaust heat out the back of the card. Now, blower-style coolers aren't inherently bad. They have their place, especially in smaller systems. But they can be a bit of a red flag when it comes to used GPUs. Why? Well, remember what we talked about earlier? Mining. Blower-style coolers are often found on GPUs that were used for mining. And as we discussed, mining can put a lot of stress on a GPU. So if you see a used GPU with a blower-style cooler, it's worth asking some questions about its history. Another thing to look out for is aftermarket cooling solutions. Some people like to upgrade their GPU coolers for better performance or quieter operation. This can be a good thing, as it means the previous owner cared about their hardware, but it's also something to inspect carefully. Make sure the installation looks clean and professional. Check for any signs of leaks or damage, and if possible, ask the seller about the cooling solution's history. Was it installed properly? Has it been maintained well? These are all important things to consider. Section 4. Don't be afraid to ask. Remember, when it comes to cooling, it's always better to be safe than sorry. Don't be afraid to ask the seller questions about the cooling solution. Ask for photos of the card with the cooler removed. And if you have any doubts, it's probably best to walk away. A well-cooled GPU is a happy GPU, and that's what we want. Alright, in the next section, we'll delve into the importance of seller transparency and how it can make or break your used GPU purchase. Okay, we're getting to the good stuff now. Seller transparency. This is huge when buying a used GPU or any used tech for that matter. You're trusting this person to be honest about the product. They're trusting you to pay up and be cool. It's a two-way street. Unfortunately, not everyone plays by the rules. Some sellers might try to pull a fast one. They might hide information about the card's history, or worse, they might try to scam you outright. That's why it's crucial to buy from trustworthy sources. A picture is worth 1,000 words, right? When you're buying a used GPU online, photos are your best friend. Ask the seller for clear, high-resolution images of the card. And I don't mean just one or two blurry shots. Request multiple angles. You want to see the front of the card, the back, the sides, the ports, everything. Look for any signs of damage, wear and tear, or modifications. If the seller is hesitant to provide detailed photos, that's a big red flag. Move on. Here's a little checklist for you. Things to watch out for when interacting with a seller. Vague descriptions, stock photos instead of real ones, unwillingness to answer questions, pushing for a quick sale, and pressure to pay outside of secure platforms. These are all major red flags. If something feels off, trust your gut. It's better to be safe than sorry. Remember, you're not obligated to buy from anyone. There are plenty of other fish in the sea. Don't settle for anything less than transparency and honesty. Now let's talk about documentation. This is where things get really interesting. A trustworthy seller will have no problem providing proof of purchase. Ask for a copy of the original invoice or receipt. This helps verify the card's age and authenticity. If the card is still under warranty, even better. Ask for the warranty information. This gives you some peace of mind in case something goes wrong. Remember, a transparent seller is a trustworthy seller. Don't be afraid to ask for the information you need to make an informed decision. Okay, we're diving a little deeper now. Let's talk about memory types, specifically the memory chips on a graphics card. You might not think it's a big deal, but trust me, it can make a difference, especially with used GPUs. See, those memory chips are working hard. They store all the data the GPU needs to render those beautiful graphics. And just like any component, they can degrade over time, especially if they've been pushed hard, like in a mining rig. Now, there are a few major players in the GPU memory market, but the two you'll see most often are Samsung and Micron. Both make quality memory chips. But there's a general consensus among enthusiasts. Samsung is often preferred. Why? Samsung memory chips have a reputation for higher quality and better overclocking potential. They tend to run a bit cooler and handle higher frequencies more reliably. Micron chips aren't bad, but they might not be as robust in the long run, especially if the card was used heavily. Section 3. Don't stress, just check. Now don't freak out if you can't find out what kind of memory chips a used GPU has. It's not always easy to tell without taking the card apart. And honestly, it shouldn't be a deal breaker unless you're a hardcore overclocker or you're buying a really high-end card. Just something to keep in mind. If you can find out easily, great. If not, don't sweat it too much. Focus on the bigger picture. The card's overall condition, the seller's transparency, and whether the price is right. Section 4. Moving on to the conclusion. Alright, we've covered a lot of ground here. We've talked about the risks and rewards of buying used GPUs. We've discussed the importance of cooling, seller transparency, and even memory types. You're well on your way to becoming a savvy used GPU shopper. But before we wrap up, let's bring it all together with a final recap and some parting words of wisdom. Stay tuned for the conclusion. Section 1. The used GPU market, a recap. So there you have it. We've talked about the ins and outs of buying a used graphics card. It can be a bit of a minefield out there, but with the right knowledge you can navigate it safely and snag yourself a great deal. Remember the key points we covered: the impact of mining, the potential pitfalls of rebuilt cards, the importance of cooling, and above all, seller transparency. These are your tools for making smart decisions. Section 2. Go forth and shop smart. Now go forth and shop with confidence. Don't be afraid to ask questions, do your research, and walk away if something feels off. A little bit of caution can save you a lot of trouble down the road. And hey, if you found this video helpful, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more tech tips and tricks. Until next time, happy gaming.